It's OPB Politics Now for Friday, June 30th. This was another frustrating week for people hoping to see Portland leaders get their arms around homelessness. Mayor Ted Wheeler abandoned, for now at least, his plan to get tougher on drug use. A new report says the Portland Street Response Program is successful, and then it questioned the city's commitment to future success. The head of that program resigned for reasons that remain murky. We're going to dig into all of that today. I'm Anna Griffin, an editor at OPB.
I'm Alex Zielinski, OPB's Portland City Government reporter.
Alex, let's start with Mayor Wheeler's plan to crack down on public drug use in Portland. What is the problem he's hoping to solve?
Yeah, to answer that question, we have to first go back to 2020 when Oregon voters passed Measure 110. That new law decriminalizes the possession of small amounts of illicit drugs and instead treats this possession as a civil violation, like a traffic ticket, and comes with a $100 fine. And that fine can be dropped if a person calls a hotline that offers screening for drug addiction. The general thinking was to not penalize people for their addiction and offer treatment instead. So fast forward a few years, and a lot of people aren't sure if it's working. That's because treatment options are still really limited in Oregon, and there's been a surge of cheap and potent illicit drugs in the state. And overdose rates are skyrocketing. And there's just been an overall increase of visible drug use in public in Portland. So Mayor Wheeler thinks that's because Measure 110's penalties aren't enough of a deterrent. And that's why he wanted to introduce a policy that would bring criminal sanctions back to drug use.
Yeah, tell us more about how that policy would have worked.
So it would have worked a lot like the city's ban on drinking alcohol in public. Basically, if anyone was caught using illicit drugs in public, they would be arrested, face up to 6 months in jail, or a $500 fine.
So this week, the mayor was ready and then all of a sudden dropped the proposal. Why?
So he's given a few reasons. One is that there's a state bill headed to the governor's desk that would criminalize small amounts of fentanyl, which is a synthetic opioid, and one of the most dangerous and widespread illicit drugs used by Portlanders. The other reason he mentioned more in passing, but I suspect it's the main reason he had for dropping this policy. That's a decades-old law that clearly prohibits cities and counties from adopting laws banning public drug consumption. I can't tell you why this state law exists, but it would have caused an obvious legal challenge to the city's policy.
Yeah, so let's make sure the timing is clear. You and other journalists last week began asking, hey, Mayor Wheeler, you want to ban it. Doesn't state law mean you can't? Over the weekend, the Oregon legislature finished up its 2023 session with a flurry of bill passages, including this new updated law. And the mayor and other city leaders are essentially hoping that does the trick.
Right. And it's not clear if it would. The city, wanted to criminalize the use of any type of illicit drug, regardless of the amount, while the state law would only arrest people who are carrying fentanyl and no other kind of drug. And to get more specific, it's only for people with more than 1 gram of fentanyl or more than 5 fentanyl pills, which, to be clear, is a lot of fentanyl. Fentanyl is extremely potent, so to the extent that just 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be deadly. So this still allows people to carry and use small doses of fentanyl and other hard drugs in public in Portland.
Does this do anything to address the fact that a lot of the meth that's being found right now is spiked with fentanyl?
Yes, because the state law also includes any other substance that's mixed with fentanyl. So it does scoop in some other weird
any mixes, varieties out there. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So this talk about getting tougher on drug use is part of kind of an ongoing shift that we've been observing at Portland City Hall when it comes to homelessness. We have a city council now that is actively pushing a more law enforcement-focused approach. That raises questions about the future of another effort, Portland Street Response. Will you remind us what that is briefly?
Sure. Portland Street Response is a 3-year-old city program that sends unarmed teams of mental health workers and paramedics to 911 calls related to people having mental health crises outside. The general idea was to reduce over-policing of homeless Portlanders and to lighten police officers' workload with an alternative first response team.
So this week, you wrote about a new report from Portland State University researchers on Portland Street Response's effectiveness. They found that it's kind of working the way it was intended to work. But City of Portland leaders, including the elected official who oversees Portland Street Response, aren't doing a lot of celebrating. In fact, they seem to be rethinking their commitment to the program.
Yeah, you're right. So Portland Street Response was created with the help of former City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty, who really served as a program's champion in City Hall, ensuring it was fully funded every budget cycle and able to expand. When Hardesty was voted out of office last year and replaced by a more moderate City Commissioner, Renee Gonzalez, folks wondered what that meant for the program's future. I think that's what we're seeing now. Commissioner Gonzalez has stoked a lot of doubt in the program and introduced some policies that have plummeted staff morale, like a ban on staff distributing tents and food to clients and a mandate for workers to help out when the city sweeps homeless encampments. He's also been slow to find out ways to fund Portland Street Response. The program has been carried along with just a lot of short-term funding commitments and is in need of a lot more reliable funds, which could really make or break the longevity of the program.
So also this week, it's been quite the week, Alex, the head of Portland Street Response announced her resignation. What reason did she give?
Yeah, Robin Berg didn't give a public reason. We know that she accepted a job at the auditor's office doing some kind of operations management work. And aside from a boatload of speculation from people at Portland Street Response in the city, that's all we know for sure.
So she is staying with the city, not with Portland Street Response. Meanwhile, there is talk of moving Portland Street Response out of the Fire Bureau. Where would it go and why would that matter?
Yeah, so it's been housed in the Fire Bureau since the beginning, which kind of made sense when it came to just first response programs, having them at least under one department.
Firefighters now doing the bulk of mental health response and physical health response.
And a lot of the medical first response comes from the fire department. But in this Portland State University report that came out this week, it kind of highlights these issues that we've been hearing kind of in the media and just murmurs in City Hall for a while, that there's these kind of cultural butting of heads between firefighters and folks within Portland Street Response, that the way that that their departments are set up, fire is more hierarchical and Portland Street Response a little bit more like a nonprofit, that kind of leads to these drama between the character or the staff.
In your reporting this week, you talked about Commissioner Gonzalez, I think, being concerned that there were police abolitionists working within Portland Street Response, people who wanted to get rid of the police bureau, and that rubbed firefighters the wrong way. It seems like there's some cultural issues at play here.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is, yes, we've heard this whole narrative that there's, even political differences between these two factions. But when I spoke to the heads of both unions that represent the Fire Bureau and Portland Street Response, they really tried to quash that idea. They said that they're really aligned in many ways. They have the same goal of helping people, that sure, there's always going to be some kind of, clash within these departments, but that the bigger problem is that the leadership and folks overseeing the programs are kind of stoking some of these tensions.
We're now a couple of weeks away from the city's new ban on daytime public camping taking effect. Given everything else we've talked about on the show today, is Portland ready to enforce that?
The city says it is. The city is first planning on sending out these outreach teams to homeless encampments to inform them when they can camp and where they can camp and just of the policy in general. And then after that step, they're going to start enforcing it. We don't really know exactly what point in time that will be. But it also leads to the question of whether the city's police force is prepared to enforce this policy. As we know, the police have been short-staffed for a while and slow to respond to some calls, meaning that enforcing this policy might not be their priority. So it remains to be seen.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
This episode of OPB Politics Now comes to you from the Gert Boyle studio. It was engineered by Nalene Silva, and our music comes from Audio Network. We're going to take next week off for the 4th of July holiday, barring major news, of course. So enjoy your holiday. And remember, you can find all our coverage of the city of Portland and everything else at our website, opb.org. There is one more important thing you can do there. Become a sustaining member of OPB. It is the single best way to support the watchdog journalism Alex and her colleagues do every day. Thanks for your support, and thanks for listening.